The blaring of alarms jolted Xavier Voss from a restless sleep, his body slamming against the ceiling of his cabin as the spacecraft's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. Red emergency lights pulsed throughout the room, casting an eerie glow on his disoriented face. A voice crackled over the intercom, barely audible over the cacophony of metal grinding against metal. "All personnel, brace for impact. Repeat, brace for impact." Xavier scrambled to secure himself in the emergency harness beside his bunk, his heart pounding against his ribcage. He had been serving as the human ambassador on the interspecies scientific mission for only 3 months, and nothing in his diplomatic training had prepared him for a spacecraft malfunction in deep space. The ship lurched violently, throwing him sideways against the restraints. Pain shot through his left ankle as it twisted awkwardly against the cabin wall. The lights flickered once, twice, then died completely, plunging him into darkness as the roar of the engines faded to an unsettling silence. When Xavier regained consciousness, his first sensation was pain, a throbbing, insistent pain radiating from his left ankle. The emergency lights had returned, casting the cabin in a dim red glow. He unclasped his harness with trembling fingers and attempted to stand, only to collapse immediately as his injured ankle gave way beneath him. "Status report," he croaked into his communication device, hoping someone would answer. "This is Ambassador Voss. Is anyone receiving?" After several seconds of static, a voice responded, not human, but the distinctive multi-toned resonance of Dr. Zelith, the ship's chief medical officer and one of the Traxian delegates on board. "Ambassador Voss, we are accounting for all crew members. Are you injured?" Xavier glanced down at his ankle, now swollen to nearly twice its normal size. "I think I hurt my ankle during the impact. Nothing serious." "What happened?" "Meteoroid collision. Significant damage to our propulsion systems. Medical team is prioritizing severe injuries. Stay where you are. We'll send assistance when available." The communication clicked off before Xavier could respond. He dragged himself to his bunk and elevated his injured ankle on a pillow, wincing at the pain. From his emergency training, he knew that elevation would help reduce swelling. It was just a sprain, he told himself. He did worse playing college basketball back on Earth. Hours passed, or what felt like hours in the timeless void of space. Xavier drifted in and out of consciousness, the pain in his ankle a constant companion. When the door to his cabin finally slid open, he was startled to see not the human medic he expected, but Dr. Zelith's towering figure filling the doorway. The Traxian physician stood over 7 feet tall, with iridescent blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the emergency lights. 4 arms emerged from a torso covered in what looked like a sophisticated medical suit, and compound eyes assessed Xavier with clinical precision. "Ambassador Voss, you reported an injury." The Traxian's voice translator produced perfectly enunciated English, though lacking any human inflection. Xavier attempted to sit up, grimacing through the pain. "Yes, doctor. I think I sprained my ankle during the impact." Dr. Zelith approached with surprising grace for his size, setting down a large medical case beside the bunk. 2 of his 4 hands reached for scanning equipment while the others began to prepare what looked like surgical tools. "Our medical bay was damaged in the collision. I am performing emergency triage in crew quarters," Dr. Zelith explained, running a handheld scanner over Xavier's swollen ankle. The device emitted soft beeps and projected holographic images into the air between them. Xavier's eyes widened as he watched the Traxian methodically arrange a series of gleaming instruments beside him, including what appeared to be a bone saw and cauterizing tools. "A doctor." What exactly are you planning to do? Dr. Zellorn's compound eyes focused on Xavier's face. Your tibiatellar joint shows significant trauma. Vascular compromise is evident. In Traxian medical protocol, rapid amputation prevents systemic infection and improves survival outcomes. Xavier's stomach dropped as the alien physician reached for a hypodermic injector. Amputation. Wait, it's just a sprain. Human terminology is imprecise. Your imaging shows severe damage. Dr. Zellorn prepared the injector with a clear liquid. This will numb the area for the procedure. Terror shot through Xavier's body, momentarily overshadowing the pain in his ankle. He scrambled backward on the bunk, putting distance between himself and the alien surgeon. Dr. Zellorn, stop. On Earth, we don't amputate for sprains or even most fractures. Our bodies can heal from these injuries. The Traxian paused, his upper set of arms still holding the medical instruments while his lower arms remained poised with the injector. Explain. In Traxian physiology, joint trauma of this magnitude leads to cellular death and systemic infection within hours if the limb is not removed. Xavier took a deep breath, trying to steady his racing heart. Human bodies work differently. Our immune system can fight infection, and our bones and tissues can heal from injuries like this. We use treatments like rest, ice, compression, and elevation. Sometimes surgery is needed to repair ligaments, but we almost never amputate unless there's no other option. Dr. Zellorn set down the injector, but continued to study the holographic scan floating above Xavier's ankle. Fascinating. Your species' cellular regeneration must be remarkably efficient. He made an adjustment to the scanner, and the image changed, highlighting different tissue layers. However, my scans indicate significant ligament tears and possible fracture. Are you certain amputation is not warranted? Absolutely certain, Xavier insisted, his voice firmer now. What I need is proper examination by someone familiar with human physiology, immobilization of the joint, anti-inflammatory medication, and time to heal. The Traxian's head tilted slightly. A gesture Xavier had learned indicated curiosity or consideration. The human medical officer, Dr. Chen, is currently treating critical injuries in Cargo Bay 3, which we have converted to a secondary medical facility. I can transport you there for his assessment. Relief washed over Xavier. Yes, please. That would be much better, Doctor. Zellorn packed away the surgical tools much to Xavier's relief and produced a hovering stretcher from the corridor. With surprising gentleness, the four-armed alien helped Xavier onto the stretcher. As they moved through the damaged corridors of the spacecraft, Xavier observed the extent of the damage. Crew members of various species worked to repair ruptured conduits and stabilize failing systems. The usual pristine white interior was marred by scorch marks and exposed circuitry. How bad is it? Xavier asked, trying to distract himself from the throbbing pain in his ankle. The primary propulsion system is non-functional, communications array damaged but partially operational, life support at 70% capacity. Doctor. Zellorn navigated the stretcher around a fallen support beam. We have sent distress signals, but our location in the Cygnus sector means rescue vessels will require approximately 12 Earth days to reach us. Xavier absorbed this information with growing concern. 12 days. Do we have enough supplies? What about the injured? Supply rationing has been implemented. Medical resources are sufficient for current injuries if properly allocated. The Traxian's voice remained calm and methodical. However, we must avoid additional casualties or complications. They arrived at the makeshift medical bay in Cargo Bay 3. The large space had been transformed into a field hospital, with crew members of various species receiving treatment on improvised beds. Dr. Chen, the human medical officer, was visible at the far end, treating a Vixillian navigator with what appeared to be severe burns. Dr. Zelorn guided the stretcher to an unoccupied area and signaled to Dr. Chen, who nodded in acknowledgement before returning to his current patient. "I must attend to other injuries," Dr. Zelorn said. "Dr. Chen will examine you when he is available. I have downloaded relevant scan data to his medical tablet." As the Traxian turned to leave, Xavier called after him. "Dr. Zelorn, thank you for not amputating my leg." The alien paused, compound eyes reflecting the overhead lights. "Interspecies medicine requires adaptability, Ambassador Voss. I will research human joint injury protocols to improve my knowledge base." With that, he moved efficiently to the next patient. Xavier waited for nearly an hour before Dr. Chen finally approached his stretcher, looking exhausted but focused. "Ambassador Voss," the doctor greeted him, reviewing the scan data on his tablet. "I see you've had an interesting conversation with our Traxian colleague." Xavier grimaced. "He was ready to cut off my leg over a sprained ankle." Dr. Chen's expression turned serious as he examined the swollen joint. "I wouldn't be so quick to dismiss his concern. Traxians have an exoskeleton with poor regenerative capabilities. Joint injuries similar to yours are often fatal for them without amputation." He manipulated the ankle gently, causing Xavier to wince. "But you're right about one thing, this isn't an amputation-worthy injury for a human. However, it's not just a simple sprain either." The doctor displayed the scan results on his tablet for Xavier to see. "You have a grade 3 ankle sprain with complete tear of the anterior talofibular ligament and a hairline fracture of the distal fibula. It's a serious injury that will require proper immobilization and eventually physical therapy, but certainly not amputation." Relief washed over Xavier, followed quickly by concern. "How long will it take to heal? And what does this mean for my role on the mission?" Dr. Chen prepared a compression bandage and stabilizing boot. "Full recovery, about 8 to 12 weeks. You'll need to stay off it completely for at least 2 weeks, then gradually begin weight-bearing with physical therapy." He carefully wrapped the ankle, his movements precise and practiced. "As for your diplomatic duties, you'll need to conduct them from your quarters or via communication systems until you can move around safely." Xavier nodded, processing this information. "And what about our current situation? 12 days until rescue arrives, are we going to make it?" The doctor's expression grew more serious as he secured the stabilizing boot around Xavier's foot and ankle. "Engineering is working around the clock to restore minimal propulsion capabilities. Life support should hold, though we're operating on reduced power. Our biggest concern is maintaining crew morale and preventing conflicts as resources get tighter." "That's where I can still be useful," Xavier realized. "My diplomatic training, I can help mediate between the different species on board, help maintain cooperation." Dr. Chen nodded, administering a pain medication injection. "That would be invaluable. The captain is planning a full crew briefing once we've stabilized all critical systems and treated the injured. You should rest until then." As Dr. Chen moved on to his next patient, Xavier lay back on the stretcher, his mind racing despite the calming effect of the medication. He had come on this mission to foster understanding between humans and alien species, but he never imagined his own injury would become such a vivid illustration of their physiological and cultural differences. When Xavier next awoke, he was back in his quarters, his injured ankle propped up on pillows and a data tablet placed beside him. A message from Captain Nerix, the Alterian commander of the vessel, informed him that a crew-wide briefing would commence in 1 hour via the ship's communication system. He attempted to shift to a more comfortable position and was surprised to find Dr. Zelorn entering his cabin, carrying what appeared to be a customized mobility device. "Ambassador Voss, you are awake. Good." The Traxian approached, setting down the device beside the bed. "I have fabricated this mobility aid based on human medical specifications. It will allow you limited movement without placing weight on your injured joint." Xavier examined the device with appreciation. It resembled a knee scooter but incorporated advanced materials and adjustable components that looked distinctly alien in design. "This is impressive, Doctor. Thank you." Dr. Zelorn made a gesture that Xavier recognized as the Traxian equivalent of acknowledgement. "I have reviewed human medical literature regarding joint injuries. Your species' ability to recover from such trauma is remarkable. In Traxian medicine, we focus on efficiency. Damaged parts are removed to preserve the whole." Xavier carefully swung his legs over the edge of the bed, mindful of his injured ankle. Different evolutionary paths, different solutions. On Earth, many of our medical advances came from necessity, learning to repair rather than replace. "An interesting philosophical divergence," Dr. Zelorn observed. Traxian biology evolved for rapid response to injury, amputation of damaged limbs, and accelerated regrowth of simplified replacement appendages. We sacrifice complexity for survival speed. Xavier's eyebrows rose in surprise. "You can regrow limbs." "Not as you might imagine. The regenerated limb is functionally basic, sufficient for survival, but lacking the neural complexity and fine motor control of the original." The Traxian helped Xavier test the mobility device, adjusting its height with his lower set of arms while stabilizing Xavier with his upper limbs. For a diplomat or surgeon, such reduced functionality would end one's career. Thus, we avoid injury with extreme caution. This new understanding of Traxian physiology gave Xavier insight into the alien doctor's initial reaction. "So when you saw my injury, I projected Traxian outcomes onto your human physiology," Dr. Zelorn confirmed. "An error in medical judgment. I have adjusted my xenophysiology protocols accordingly." Xavier practiced maneuvering with the scooter, finding it remarkably well-balanced and responsive. "We all have blind spots when it comes to understanding other species. That's why this mission is so important." The ship-wide communication system activated, indicating the start of the captain's briefing. The holographic display in Xavier's quarters illuminated, showing Captain Nerix's distinctive silver-scaled features. "Crew of the Celestial Horizon, I will provide a complete status report on our situation," the captain began, her translator rendering her sibilant native language into clear English. "The meteoroid impact damaged our main propulsion systems and several critical support functions. Engineering teams have restored emergency power to essential systems and partial functionality to our communication array." Xavier listened intently as the captain detailed the damage and repair priorities. The situation was serious but not hopeless. With careful resource management and continued repairs, they could survive until the rescue vessels arrived. "Ambassador Voss will coordinate interspecies cooperation during this crisis period," Captain Nerix continued, surprising Xavier. "All section leaders will report concerns and resource allocation disputes to him for mediation. Despite his injury, the ambassador has agreed to fulfill this vital role." Xavier hadn't actually agreed to anything yet, but he recognized the captain's strategy, giving him a purpose would both utilize his skills and provide an example of working through adversity. He nodded to Dr. Zelorn, who seemed to understand the unspoken message. "I will inform the captain that you accept this assignment," the Traxian said as the briefing concluded. "Your mobility device will allow you to conduct limited face-to-face meetings in the ship's central conference pod, which remains intact. For more distant sections, we have enhanced the holographic communication systems." Over the next several days, Xavier found himself busier than ever despite his physical limitations. The damaged ship created numerous challenges that tested the crew's patience and cooperative spirit. Different species had different environmental needs, dietary requirements, and cultural expectations about crisis management. The Vixilians, with their heat-dependent metabolism, required additional energy allocations as the ship's temperature control systems struggled. The Alterian crew members needed higher oxygen levels than the other species. The human contingent worried about radiation exposure from the damaged shielding. Each valid concern needed to be balanced against limited resources. Xavier's quarters became an informal diplomatic hub, with section leaders arriving regularly to present their needs and grievances. Dr. Zelorn visited daily to check on his ankle and adjust his treatment plan, often staying to observe these diplomatic sessions with clinical interest. During one particularly tense negotiation between the Vixilian engineering chief and the Alterian security officer over power allocation, Xavier noticed Dr. Zelorn taking detailed notes. "You find our conflicts interesting, Doctor?" Xavier asked during a break in the heated discussion. The Traxian's compound eyes shifted focus to him. "Interspecies stress responses provide valuable medical insights, different physiological reactions to identical stressors. Fascinating data." Xavier smiled despite his fatigue. "I suppose we're all studying each other, even now." On the 5th day after the collision, Xavier's ankle had improved enough that Dr. Chen permitted him to attempt short periods of weight-bearing with the support of a walking boot. Dr. Zelorn observed this assessment with intense interest. "The rate of human tissue repair exceeds my calculations," the Traxian commented as Xavier took cautious steps around his quarters. "Most remarkable." Dr. Chen nodded. "The human body is incredibly resilient, especially with proper treatment. The initial inflammation has subsided and the ligaments are beginning the healing process. The hairline fracture is stable. Yet pain persists," Dr. Zelorn noted, observing Xavier's wincing. "Pain is part of the healing process for humans," Dr. Chen explained. "It serves as a warning system to prevent overuse of the injured area." Dr. Zelorn absorbed this information with characteristic thoroughness. "Traxians experience pain differently. For us, pain indicates system failure rather than recovery. Once pain begins in a limb, cellular death typically follows." This exchange gave Xavier an idea. "Dr. Zelorn, would you be willing to share this comparative physiology information with the entire crew? Understanding our biological differences might help reduce misunderstandings during this crisis." The Traxian considered this proposal. An educational seminar on interspecies medical variations. Yes, this could reduce medical emergencies caused by incorrect cross-species assumptions. "Dr. Chen, would you participate?" The human doctor appeared intrigued by the suggestion. "A joint presentation." "Absolutely. We could include the medical officers from the other species as well." This initiative proved more successful than Xavier had anticipated. The medical seminar expanded into a series of educational exchanges, with experts from each species sharing knowledge about their physiological needs, cultural norms, and stress responses. The increased understanding noticeably reduced tensions aboard the damaged vessel. By the 8th day, Xavier could move around the ship for short periods, though he still relied on the mobility device for longer distances. During a visit to the engineering section to mediate a resource dispute, he found himself in conversation with technician Vral, one of the Vixillian engineers working tirelessly to restore propulsion capabilities. "Your leg healing is proceeding well," the reptilian engineer asked, glancing at Xavier's booted ankle. "Better every day," Xavier confirmed. "Though I'm still following doctor's orders to avoid putting too much weight on it." Vral's scaled head tilted in what Xavier had learned was an expression of thoughtfulness. "Curious. When Dr. Zelorn first examined you, he prepared for amputation. This seemed logical to me, as Vixillians also remove severely damaged limbs. Yet you insisted this was unnecessary." Xavier nodded, realizing this was another opportunity to bridge cultural understanding. Different evolutionary paths led to different medical approaches. Humans developed complex healing mechanisms rather than regenerative capabilities. "And this influences your species' approach to other problems," Vral observed, making an unexpected connection. "Humans attempt to repair the damaged ship systems that we Vixillians would simply bypass or replace. Perhaps there is value in combining these approaches." This insight led to a breakthrough in the engineering team's approach to the damaged propulsion system. Rather than trying to either completely repair or completely bypass the damaged section's approaches that had created division among the engineering staff, they developed a hybrid solution that incorporated elements of both strategies. By the 10th day, the engineering team had restored limited propulsion capability, enough to adjust their trajectory and rendezvous with the rescue vessels a full day earlier than initially calculated. This success boosted crew morale significantly and reinforced the value of collaborative problem solving across species. In the medical bay, Xavier's regular treatment sessions became informal cultural exchange opportunities. Dr. Zelorn and Dr. Chen began incorporating each other's techniques into their practice, creating hybrid treatment protocols that considered the unique physiology of each species. "Your ankle ligaments show 30% regeneration," Dr. Zelorn reported during Xavier's checkup on the 11th day. "Dr. Chen has taught me to incorporate ultrasonic stimulation to accelerate human tissue repair, a technique we never considered for Traxian patients." Xavier tested his range of motion, pleased with the improvement. "And I notice you've adapted some Traxian medications for human use, Dr. Chen nodded as he adjusted the settings on the treatment device. "Their anti-inflammatory compounds are remarkably effective when properly modified for human biochemistry. We're documenting all these discoveries for medical teams back on Earth and Traxia." The anticipated rescue arrived early on the 12th day 3 vessels, representing a joint operation between human and alien authorities. The evacuation proceeded smoothly, with critical patients transferred first, followed by essential personnel needed to secure the damaged celestial horizon for towing to the nearest space dock. As one of the injured but stable crew members, Xavier found himself aboard the Alterian medical transport ship alongside Dr. Zelorn, who had volunteered to continue treating the patients he had come to know during the crisis. "You did not need to accompany us," Xavier said as the Traxian checked his ankle during the journey. "Surely the celestial horizon needs its chief medical officer." Dr. Zelorn's compound eyes focused on the healing joint. "Dr. Chen remains with the ship. I requested this assignment specifically. The interspecies medical protocols we developed must be properly documented and implemented in future missions." My experience with your case provides valuable data. Xavier smiled, recognizing that the Traxian was expressing what might be considered friendship in his own clinical way. I'm glad to have you continuing my treatment, doctor, though I'm still grateful you didn't amputate when we first met. A fortunate error, Dr. Zelorn acknowledged, making a final adjustment to Xavier's therapeutic boot. Had I followed standard Traxian protocol, I would have removed a limb capable of natural healing. Instead, I learned to question assumptions about other species. That's the essence of diplomacy, Xavier observed, recognizing that our differences can be complementary rather than contradictory. 3 weeks later, aboard Space Station Gamma in Earth orbit, Xavier stood without assistance for the first time since the accident. His ankle, though still tender, had healed remarkably well under the combined human Traxian treatment protocol developed by Dr. Chen and Dr. Zelorn. The formal debriefing with Earth authorities and representatives from the alien governments involved in the Celestial Horizon mission had just concluded. Despite the near disaster, the diplomatic and scientific outcomes were being hailed as groundbreaking, particularly the medical and engineering innovations that emerged from the crisis. Ambassador Voss, a familiar multi-toned voice called from behind him as he left the conference room. Your gait pattern indicates significant improvement. Xavier turned to see Dr. Zelorn approaching, the Traxian's blue-gray skin contrasting sharply with the standard white of the space station corridors. Doctor, I didn't know you were still on the station. I remained to finalize the joint medical protocols, Dr. Zelorn explained. The Interspecies Medical Council has approved our recommendations for standardized xenophysiology training for all medical personnel on mixed-species missions. Xavier felt a surge of pride at this accomplishment. That's excellent news. Your work will prevent future misunderstandings like the one we experienced. Indeed. The Traxian made a gesture with his upper set of arms that Xavier now recognized as satisfaction. The Council was particularly interested in what we now call the sprain paradigm, the recognition that identical injuries may require radically different treatments across species. Xavier couldn't help but laugh. The sprain paradigm. So my ankle has become famous in medical circles. Your refusal of amputation initiated an important scientific dialogue, Dr. Zelorn confirmed with characteristic seriousness. Future training will emphasize verification of cross-species medical assumptions before treatment begins. A notification chimed from Dr. Zelorn's communication device. I must depart. The Traxian medical vessel leaves for home in 30 minutes. He extended his lower right hand in the human gesture of farewell that he had learned during their time together. Will you continue in your diplomatic role, Ambassador Voss? Xavier shook the offered hand, noticing that the Traxian had modulated his grip strength perfectly for human comfort, another small but significant adaptation. Yes, though with a new focus. I've been asked to help develop enhanced cross-cultural training for future mixed-species missions, based on our experiences. An appropriate assignment. Your injury created an unexpected bridge between our medical traditions. Doctor. Zelorn's compound eyes focused on Xavier with what might have been warmth, at least for a Traxian. Remember to complete your physical therapy exercises. The ligaments require continued strengthening to reach optimal functionality. Doctor's orders, Xavier agreed with a smile. And when the next interspecies mission launches, I hope we'll be working together again. I have already volunteered as Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Zelorn confirmed, with one condition: that you serve as the human diplomatic liaison. As the Traxian departed for his transport, Xavier reflected on the unexpected journey that had begun with a meteoroid collision and a misdiagnosed ankle injury. What could have been a disastrous first-contact medical incident had instead become the foundation for improved understanding between species. 6 months later, Xavier stood at the observation deck of the newly commissioned exploration vessel Unity, watching Earth recede into the distance as they began their journey to the recently discovered Proxima Centauri outpost. His ankle, now fully healed, supported his weight without complaint, a testament to both human resilience and Traxian medical adaptability. Dr. Zelorn joined him at the viewport, the Traxian's tall form casting a long shadow across the deck. Departure proceeding on schedule. Medical bay fully operational with expanded xenophysiology capabilities. I saw the new equipment during the pre-launch tour, Xavier noted. The diagnostic systems look much more comprehensive than what we had on the celestial horizon. Directly influenced by our experience, Dr. Zelorn confirmed. Each scanning unit now contains complete physiological baselines for all known sentient species, with clear treatment differentiation protocols. A small group of crew members passed by, representing 5 different species working together seamlessly, a sight that would have seemed remarkable just a year ago, but was now becoming the new standard for deep space missions. It's amazing how much changed because of one sprained ankle, Xavier observed. Dr. Zelorn's compound eyes reflected the starlight from the viewport. Not the injury itself, but your response to it. Your insistence on species-appropriate treatment created awareness of a critical knowledge gap. Xavier smiled, remembering the initial terror he'd felt when the Traxian had prepared to amputate his leg. I'm just glad we both learned something from the experience. Indeed. The Traxian made the gesture Xavier now recognized as respect. Though I maintain that proper amputation would have been the correct treatment for a Traxian with your injury. And I'm very glad I'm not a Traxian, Xavier replied with a laugh. As the Unity accelerated toward its destination, carrying representatives from 7 different worlds, Xavier reflected on how his painful experience had ultimately strengthened the bonds between their species. A sprained ankle, something so mundane on Earth, had highlighted their physiological differences, while simultaneously demonstrating their shared capacity for adaptation and learning. The mission ahead would undoubtedly bring new challenges and misunderstandings, but they were better prepared now to recognize and bridge those gaps. In the vast emptiness of space, understanding their differences had become their greatest strength.